Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. We are the Boats team of Venice, formerly known as the Wake We Leave Behind, Assessing Heritage and Contemporary Challenges in Venice. I am Jackson Allred.
Connor Dunkley.
Alex Luna.
And Isaac Wolf.
A little bit of background information about Venice's boats. Venice's boats are the storytellers of their maritime tradition. Boats are the foundation of Venice and a key support of their infrastructure. And we learned through an interview with Gilberto Penzo that they built the boat before the house, which really captures the significance of the boats in Venice. However, on the other side, modern boat traffic threatens the preservation of traditional boats, creating hazardous wake conditions and clustering of the canals, leading to damage of gondolas and other traditional boats. With all of the findings that we found in the last 7 weeks, dating back to the IQP preterm, we will compile everything into a website that will be publicly accessible for all to add to and further their research on the Boats of Venice. WPI specifically and the VPC have been studying the boats since 1991, from canal wall damage, modo and doso structure analysis, boat traffic counts, Arzana, which is the only known preservation effort currently of traditional boats, the impacts of tourism on the transportation system, and the effects traffic can have in the canals. We have an emphasis on the 2004 team and their assessment of traditional boats and their maritime heritage, and the 2013 team and their analysis on traffic counts and canal wall damage.
So it's important that we preserve traditional boats, as these are retired since they're kind of obsolete compared to motorboats. So they're not really being made anymore, and these are very traditional historical designs, some more culturally significant than others, but most of them are just in storage, rapidly degrading and not being used. So there are a couple professionals and people who are actually working towards preserving this, like we talked about Arzana a couple seconds ago. That's an organization that Fabio works with to actually preserve and document boats, oars, and oarlocks. And then there's also Gilberto Penzo. You can see he's holding a model gondola. He makes very scientific, precise models of boats down to like the exact type of wood that for each part. And as you can see here, we made a translated document of the form made by Giovanni Cagnato of data about certain boats, like how long they are, what they generally look like. Usually these are hand-drawn, but we got actual like photogrammetric scans to get actual precise like drawings of those boats. And then here you can see that we used photogrammetry to document. It can definitely be done, and it can get pretty exact. And the VPC also did this in 2012, but for this year we just decided to use very simple tools like just cell phones and like apps that are completely free and totally free to use, and that's mainly the result we got. So we created this using a gondola at Arzana, and this method, again, was very feasible, but it would definitely be easier if we had more dedicated and expensive equipment and like paid for software that would process this a lot more faster, and if you had more training on how to like take these pictures and how to process these scans, because it took me a while to manually process this, and as you can clearly see, it's not perfect. But again, if you had more practice using these softwares, you can definitely get better scans and better final products.
Another aspect of our project was reviewing the Squari of Venice, which are traditional boat yards, and they build and support the remaining traditional boats of Venice. And in 2004, that IQP team was able to identify 7 remaining Squari. I think they had a list of 12. And 7 of these 12 remained in 2004. And as it's been 22 years since then, I felt that it was worth our time to go back and verify that all of these places still exist. They're still running, producing, repairing boats. And very fortunately for Venice's traditional boats, we've identified, as you can see here on these maps, that all 7 of these squarey are still open and functional, 6 of which you can see on the left on the main map of Venice, and then 1 in Burano on the right. And in addition to cataloging the modern squarey of Venice, we've reviewed the Venice Project Center's old historical cartography map, and we found some additional historical squarey. This one in particular is of note because this is the squarey that Arzana is located here. So we were able to find historically evidence that even dating back to these ancient maps, you can still see that the traditional boats are being built and repaired on this site. And in addition to reviewing the Squarey of Venice, we've also reviewed the traffic in the canals, which includes tracking the speed limit compliance of these boats. And one of the more interesting things that we found was obviously speed limits need to exist. In 2002, more like direct speed limits were applied to the area in the lagoon. And in 2013, there was a study conducted to verify the speed compliance. That was the project we referenced earlier. And in 2026, just this year, new speed cameras were introduced in an attempt to improve speed compliance of motorboats in the canals.
As you can see, this is a map of everywhere where we did speed counts. The 2013 team did speed counts at these same locations. One of the locations we did it at is the Grand Canal. We would measure a segment of land, and then using 2 team members and a phone call, one team member would stand on one side, look and say, the boat is passing now, and then we wait for the boat to pass the other person, and because we already know the distance, and now we have the time, we could measure the speed of the boat, and we would also record the type of the boat. At the Grand Canal, this is the 2013 team's data, and as you can see, almost all the boats were above the speed limit of 7 kilometers an hour, and also almost all the boats were above the ticket minimum, which is 2 kilometers above the speed limit. They give you a little bit of leeway before they ticket you. But when we re-recorded the data this year, you can see many boats were below the ticket minimum, but still almost all were above the speed limit, which seemed to imply that these speed cameras may be working. Another canal we did it at is Rio de Santa Apostoli, and in this one there were no new speed cameras. And in 2013, as you see, still basically every boat is speeding. But surprisingly, our data showed the boats were still speeding but had also still slowed down slightly. Next slide. And we did that at 2 other locations as well and saw similar results. The boats have definitely slowed down since 2013, but because they have done it at locations both with and without speed cameras, we question if this is because of the speed cameras or simply because of an increased amount of congestion due to an increased amount of boats since 2013. One concern about boat speeding is the moto ondoso, or wake impact of these boats. It is said that wakes generated by these boats will collide with the walls of the canals, and this will eventually erode them, remove masonry, and loosen bricks, and ultimately degrade these walls and make them require repairs. To better quantify moto ondoso, a team introduced the moto ondoso index. The moto ondoso is not only dependent on the amount of boats traveling through a canal, but also on the type of boats. The size, the shape, and the speed of the boat all play factors. In 2002, the team created this moto ondoso index to better take into account these factors. And one of our goals was to see if we could estimate the cost of Moto Ondoso. And a 2013 team also did this. As you can see here, they took specific walls in each canal segment and compared them to the amount of Moto Ondoso in that canal segment. But we realized if you picked a different set of walls from the same canal segment, this relationship, which is statistically significant but weak, would essentially disappear or become slightly stronger depending on which walls you chose. So what we did is it counted for all the walls in a canal segment, and when you do this, we could not verify the relationship between Moto Ondoso and cost of maintenance. This does not mean such a relationship does not exist. Our data was extremely limited for several reasons, and this leads us to not be able to say much conclusively about this relationship. What we can say, though, from our ethnographic research is the wakes produced by motor route speeding make it harder for, or make worse conditions for rowboats to row, as they can topple them, make them risk capsizing, and make the experience a lot worse. We also looked into other factors that could contribute to canal wall damage, which can be seen in our report.
So all in all, for our conclusions, our first is that we've decided and determined based off of our experiments that photogrammetry is a viable option for preserving Venetian boats. A connection between Moto Ondoso and canal wall damage could not be proven from past data. This does not mean that there is not a connection, but we could not prove it or disprove it with this existing data. And the number of boats in the canals that are speeding has reduced, but boats still speed regularly. It's just that less are over the ticket minimum, which could be due to congestion or could be due to the addition of the speed cameras to the canals. And to compile all of these findings, we have a website template where these sections can be filled out with all of the information that we've collected and brought together over the past 14 weeks. Thank you. We want to thank the VPC, Fabio Carrera, Grant Barrier, Natalie Farney, and Serendipity for this amazing opportunity. We were very glad to be able to experience Venice and conduct research that will hopefully somewhere down the line improve conditions for rowers and for anyone who cares about the state of boats in the city. Any questions?
My favorite memory was probably rowing with Row Venice. It's a lot more difficult than you would think it would be. The oar sits in an oar lock, but once the oar breaks the surface of the water, if you are not adamant in a forward motion, the oar is going to stay behind you, and it makes it very challenging. So that was my favorite experience.
Yeah, that was probably also my favorite experience as well. It was really fun to try that out and learn how to do that. I also liked visiting Gilberto Penzo's shop and seeing all of those models he made that were very specific, very detailed, and very high quality, and they clearly had a lot of effort put into them, and I just really appreciated that that existed, and I thought that was also really cool.
Yes, and we were able to, across this entire project, see the surviving culture that's passed down through generations in Venice, surrounding especially traditional boats. We were able to visit Arzana and not only go there and look at all of their historical boats and photogrammetrize gondola, but we were also able to just hang out with the people there that had all of this passion and care for these boats. We were able to share food and drink with them and sing with them, and you can really see that they care deeply about keeping Venetian culture alive.
My favorite thing we did was interviewing Gilberto. He is clearly very, very, very passionate about the Boats of Venice, and it is impossible to not feel more passionate after talking to him.
Thank you very much. That was a very good question. That gave us a great chance to discuss our favorite parts of this project. Any other questions?
Any more questions?